I call a member for Newtown. Are you seeking leave?
I'd like to seek leave.
Member for Newtown seeking leave. Leave granted. Sounds like it is member for Newtown. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr Speaker. I rise to speak on behalf of the Greens on this motion on Western Sydney growth and to perhaps address some of the furphies that have been put so far in this debate when it comes to the investment of infrastructure in Western Sydney. It is true that money is being spent in Western Sydney. It is true that this government is spending $16.8 billion on a 33-kilometre motorway that they purport to be in the interests of Western Sydney. But when we look a little bit closer as to whether or not this infrastructure is what the people of Western Sydney need, and whether it is in the best interests of the people of Western Sydney for us to spend $16.8 billion on a 33-kilometre motorway. And if there are any of the Nationals people here in this place hearing that we're spending $16.8 billion of our roads budget on 33 kilometres of an inner-city road, they may wish to start looking at that and seeing whether that's the best use of our roads budget. I would start to look at perhaps some of the headlines that have come out lately in the Sydney Morning Herald around what this means to be investing in road infrastructure without investment in public transport. In the 29th of January, the Sydney Morning Herald article stated as its headline, "Public transport in Sydney's southwest continues to lag behind." Longer, more crowded train journeys for commuters was the 7th of February headline. And then on the 21st of January, the Sydney Morning Herald headline was, "Why is Sydney's urban sprawl making us sick?" And went on to say that a recent Committee of Sydney report, which was supposed to be into the economics of Western Sydney, actually turned into a health report because of the damning findings that were made. Basically entrenching health inequities on the people of Western Sydney because of the failure of this government to invest in walkable town centres, expanding rail networks and cycle-to-work programs and park and ride facilities. It says the people who live in Western Sydney are twice as likely to die from cardiovascular diseases like heart failures and strokes. This is data from the Health Stats New South Wales. And if you overlay a geographical map of the rates of diabetes, obesity, cardiovascular disease, with a map of low-density areas and areas with poor public transport access, they almost identically overlay in our Greater Sydney area. So what we are seeing is this government investing in road infrastructure that will not only land the people of Western Sydney with expensive tolls, will not only land the people of this state with a huge bill of a $16.8 billion motorway, but they are also contributing to the poor health outcomes of people living in Western Sydney because of their failure to invest in rail infrastructure. But can I just say, it's not just us, the proud inner-city, inner-west lefties that drink lattes and chardonnays and apparently have issues with roads that might be raising these concerns. And I am a proud inner-city lefty, I can tell you, I wear that badge with pride, I tell you. I wear that badge with pride. But it's not just me saying this, because actually, interestingly, on the 7th of February, which happens to be my partner's birthday, the Mayor of Penrith, John Thane, actually wrote, "Those who live in traditionally more affordable areas on the outskirts of metropolitan Sydney are already paying a heavy price." And he started talking about the need for the government to invest in more connected rail networks and talk about the need for investment in public transport. The Mayor of Penrith agrees, we inner city lefties agree, this government has failed the people of Western Sydney by investing in polluting tollways.
Thank the member for Newtown. Time has expired.